This review touches upon the very foundation of what I think the Garmin Instinct 2 Solar is intended for. Mountaineering, hiking, surviving the elements, exploring with a companion fit for the elements. This is Adrian Miller, and this is my review of my experience with hiking with the Garmin Instinct 2 Solar. The outdoors is the very DNA of the Instinct series. It is the very watch that you trust as one of the most toughest and enduring digital companions for a hiking adventure. I went for an 11-day mountain hike in the Norwegian mountains. Several times we were at the risk of getting caught by the forecasted thunderstorms. We caught up 2 days with the last day of being the absolute longest. After last year's 240km hike with the Vivo Active 4, the Instinct 2 had a lot to live up to. After my bike trip from Copenhagen to Oslo, I knew that battery life would not be an issue, given how much sun and daylight I would get exposed to during a full day hike. Also, I was really interested in seeing how well the altimeter as well as the compass would perform. The first thing I did was setting up the data screens for hiking and getting the most out of the main field. I ended up using this screen most of the time, and with the experience from last year, I already had a clear idea of what it would consist of. A big thanks goes to GPS Training for making this review series possible by loaning me this particular review unit. Check out GPS Training's online services as well as their dedicated GPS Training YouTube channel in the link in the description. The top panel is the elevation I'm currently at. Be aware that even though this comes with a newer ABC sensor, it can get affected by temperature and windy conditions, so you have to recalibrate it. But this is quite easy to calibrate the height using the GPS for adjusting it. However, it didn't always match up with the printed topographic maps we were using, but occasionally were 10 to 50 meters off after calibration with the GPS. I have set the circular screen to be the pulse. The middle left screen is the time that has been spent tracking. Note that it stops when using the resume later function, so you have to look up Garmin Connect to see the total amount of time spent tracking, meaning the time the tracking started to the time the tracking ended. I like to use the resume later for longer pauses, provides more accurate data in terms of time spent hiking and the actual speed. As for my hiking trip across the several national parks in Norway, the Instinct 2 was performing as expected and also way beyond in terms of battery life. On this trip, I did have access to wall charger every now and then. We had a break at the Norwegian hiking cabins. Over the course of 11 days, I charged the watch 3 times. And there were still plenty of days with battery left. I did not notice exactly how much when the trip ended. Also, another thing that makes it difficult estimating the actual battery life I had at any given moment is whenever we were hiking, the watch were exposed to continuous day and sunlight. What I can say is that using the hiking option doesn't really drain the battery given that you have plenty of sunlight. I must give a little comment on Garmin's outdoor-centric app Garmin Explore a little bit of attention as I drew up the trip as a whole on my iPad and exported the GPX files so that everyone could have it on their respective phones. I must say most of the time Garmin Explore had access to the very much vast web of trails in the Norwegian mountains, forests and wilderness, but sometimes it did come short of the trails. And the local Norwegian maps as well as our printed maps were the most reliable companions. But as a cheap alternative to the more expensive GPSs out there, I feel Garmin Explore is a very good alternative in terms of both checking where you are quickly as well as detecting whether you're off trail or not and confirming the location while looking at the printed map. The reason is that Garmin Explorer's topographical map fall in many ways short of local Norwegian map, and I urge everyone to be aware of that in your local area. Names of places are missing on seemingly random places, as well as trails ending whereas they continue on the local maps. This might be a Norwegian issue, and I hope Garmin will adapt the Norwegian maps, which are also freely available for download for anyone through a simple web-based services, as well as through more advanced services if using GIS software. Every day I started tracking the very moment we started walking. Again, the resume later function was really nice to have whenever we took a longer break, say longer than a couple of minutes. I used the go-to utilities for Strava website for merging the hiking trip into one. And that has been my experience hiking with the Garmin Instinct 2 Solar. In the next video I will take a look into how the Instinct 2 performs with both bouldering and climbing as well as outdoor climbing. And if you would like to support my channel, feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.